You ready?
Oh, yeah. This is the last time you're gonna see broke Keith Knight.
That's my boy.
Say syndication.
Hey, Keith.
You know, I did my first toasted butter cartoon in the bathroom wall.
It's still there. You're a black cartoonist. You're controversial just by existing.
And that's why I keep it light.
I don't know any comic strips, black or otherwise.
Oh, so you're colorblind.
No, I just don't see cartoonists.
Neil, do you really want to be known as the guy who draws bored breakfast food?
I'm kind of going through something at the moment, currently.
We're adding new titles every day to our awesome collection of blockbuster movies. Download the app and subscribe. This isn't just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
Knowledge is power. Information is currency. Trust us to tell you what you need to hear. Welcome to the program. You're with Arise News in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Breaking news, exclusive interviews, unrivaled analysis. It's you, the audience, who drives our agenda. We tell the stories that inform you, the stories that are important to you, and the stories that are about you. We are not every news channel. We are Arise News.
A very warm welcome to this week, 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues, and all the controversies around the world. I'm Somna Sambo. And now to the headlines. At last, PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar meets Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike in London after similar meetings between Wike with Tinubu, Obi, and Obasanjo. Nigeria and United States signed agreement on repatriation of $23 million Abacha loot with the money tied to specific projects by the federal government as agreed with the US. And huge controversy over Angolan elections outcome as main opposition party UNITA rejects provisional results of the National Electoral Commission, claiming the process was marred by counting irregularities as President Joao Lourenço retains his seat. very warm welcome to the show once again. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has in what many say are fence-mending measures again met with the aggrieved governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, in London. Atiku's meeting is coming amidst the insistence of Wike and his political associates that PDP National Chairman Yoche Ayu must resign, that Atiku should sign a one-term pact amidst other demands which are coming as a result of the fallout of the presidential primary election. Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State, Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, and Abia State's Okezie Ikpeazu were pictured together with Atiku and Wike during the meeting. Now, Governor Wike has earlier held similar meetings with the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, and that of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, with the latter being accompanied by former President Olusegun Obasanjo. So why is Wike the toast of the Nigerian political class at the moment? Is he not committing anti-party activities with all of these meetings? Well, joining me in the studio to unbundle this political conversation is Willie Ezugu, who is the Secretary of the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, CNPP, and of course, Rilwan Okpanachi, who is a legal practitioner and the Director General of Project Beyond 2023, a political group. Also joining us from our Lagos studio is legal practitioner and African Affairs analyst, Liboros Oshoma. And I come to you, Willie Ezugu. Let's talk about Wike again, being the beautiful bride in this period. And of course, he's really now demands on Atiku Abubakar. He wants Wike to, he wants Yoche Ayu to go, even the Deputy National Chairman of the PDP, Umar Damagum, who comes from the North, who's supposed to take over if Yoche Ayu resigns, is asking that should go. He's also asking to be given the position of the DG of the Atiku Abubakar Presidential Campaign Council, and his group will produce the DG, and of course several other demands, including that they will produce the Senate President and some key positions in the government, of course ministerial positions, if the PDP comes into power. Aren't these demands too much, especially the one that says that Atiku should sign a one-term pact?
Well, thank you so much. You know, politics in Nigeria, most things that happen, there is where people don't live to the agreements. Why do I say so? For example, I think Muhammad Buhari, when he was campaigning, he made that same statement that he's going to run for one term. But today you can see the second term, he ran the second term of his regime. Well, that one
and, on record, actually, that Buhari
and at the same time, in politics, mostly in our country, I don't see the kind of pact or agreement you will sign that if the one doesn't want to obey it, he will obey it. For example, Wike being a beautiful bride, I bride him, the whole issue. You can't beat a small child and you ask him not to cry, because PDP, based on their constitution, has failed to live up to expectation, and that is why they are finding it difficult now to be able to, you know, I agree with the other side of the Wike side. You see, Wike is the type of person in Nigeria. People might say he talks a lot, but then he said nothing but the truth. I am among the people who support Wike 100%, in as much as I'm not in PDP, but he's a man that have shown what leadership is all about. He knows what it takes. Like if you go to Rivers State, the man has turned Rivers State as a mini Dubai in Nigeria. Whether any person like it or not, Wike has done a lot in his own state, like other states, other state governors in this particular dispensation. And for the main fact that in PDP, the zoning they did, you know, having be able to take all the major political appointments, like from the from the presidential candidate to the chairman of the party to the chairman of board of trustees, all in the north. And when you come to the south, I don't know what we are having there. Only the national secretary of the PDP, which you know is just under the two leadership in the party. When you talk of the party outside the presidential candidate, like the party, you talk of the chairman, you talk of the board of trustees chairman. So where does the secretary belong to? That is why they said, even living out of that expectation, which we believe that one of these major would have gone to the south, and they did not do it. And after their primaries, you saw what happened. And so many people who are with Atiku, who are behind Atiku, they were making some kind of comments that even if you are in the shoes of Wike, you do what he's doing. And I'm happy today you have been able to show them that he's a man of his word. And like he said, even if he loses the primaries, he will still stay in PDP. That is why he's still in PDP.
Okay.
If not, he would have been able to leave PDP today, because there are a lot of good presidential candidates who have emerged from their parties that he could easily move into another party. But being that he's a man of his word, he still remains in PDP. But all things being equal, like they said, one of the statements that I heard them made is that we are no longer talking of party now, but we're now talking of how to be able to bring Nigeria to a unity. Where people is no longer my party or I'm from my party, but then they want to see that let there be credibility in this coming election, and that is what they're all about. All
right. And I'll come to you, Panachi. What do you make of those sort of demands on Atiku Abubakar? We have heard Atiku, based on the information we're getting here, saying that, okay, Wike should give him 2 weeks to be able to look into these demands. And of course, if you are Atiku, I mean, what will you make of such huge demands? It looks like he's been tied down, I mean, left, right, and then, of course, center.
Thank you very much. I think Wike is not asking for too much. What Wike is asking for is within the acceptable point of demand. Looking at what he has invested in the party thus far, it came to a point that the PDP was abandoned by almost everybody. And Wike had to step in and to provide leadership for the party, to provide the resources for the party. And it's clear that even at that time, the presidential candidate of the party was landing in the United Arab Emirates, in Dubai. So it was only Wike that showed that the affairs of the party. And he is now feeling slighted, feeling embarrassed, and by the same party that he gave everything for. And that is why he's asking for what he's asking for. Another thing is the capacity of Atiku to yield to the demand. I don't think Atiku will yield to the demand. And even if he does, I don't think he will keep to that agreement after election as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Also, Wike is quite aware. I'm sure Wike is well experienced and savvy enough to understand that Atiku will not keep to that agreement, if at all he do give in to the demands. And what Wike is primarily fighting for is justice. Wike was part of those that met in the bedroom of the present vice presidential candidate of Atiku and took the decision that this presidency must return to the South. Unfortunately, the governor of Delta State, took another direction and embraced Atiku, gave Atiku support. Wike is still fighting to that. And in meeting with Asuaju, he's in furtherance of that justice that he's fighting for. He's insisted that the presidency must come to the South. I don't think Wike on his own is even too committed to the demands. He's still insisting, he's still in his heart that the presidency should return to the South. And that is the justice of the situation. The North has had the presidency for the past 8 years. If anything, the presidency should return to the South. The ticket Atiku is holding ought to have gone to the Southeast. When you look at, because now Nigeria Constitution says that for you to contest the election, you must belong to a political party. Therefore, when you are looking at justice as relates to our political, situation, you must look at it from the eye of the political parties. And when you look at it from the eye of the PDP, you know that the justice of the case should have gone to the Southeast. But when you look at the justice within APC, you look at it that the Southwest has contributed more and given more to APC, and the ticket is justified, and it is justified. The ticket went to Southwest, which Asuaju is holding now. So Wike is still insisting that this presidency should go to the South, and the meeting with Asuaju is in the interest of justice. It's in the interest of equity. I don't think it is an act of anti-party.
The Labour Party, before I come to
it's still a South. it's still a South. Labour Party president is from the South. Asuaju is from the South, and his demands are not unreasonable. Atiku should be able to meet the demand, but Atiku that we know and politicians that we know will not commit himself to the demand. And even if he does, the capacity to keep to it after he's elected is zero as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, and Liberals, what do you make of these demands yourself? And isn't Wike supposed to be accused of anti-party activities by wanting to mate with the presidential candidate of the APC, which is the main challenger of the PDP, and then, of course, the burgeoning Labour Party. I mean, at this time when PDP needs a harmonized political party, shouldn't members or even the National Working Committee be thinking of sanctioning Governor Nyesom Wike? And then secondly, do you think Atiku Abubakar, if he indeed agrees to some of these demands, can keep up to these demands?
Yeah, thank you, Somnia. First and foremost, I must say that it is shameful that this meeting is holding in London. I want to imagine, you know, the Conservative Party or the Labour Party in the UK having a crisis and then coming to Nigeria to hold, you know, peace parley. It's shameful, especially this time that the country is crying of lack of forests. So you hear that politicians from Nigeria, you know, the high and mighty current and former governor, presidential aspirants are meeting in London and France. It is shameful for the ordinary man. But that said, Atiku brought this upon himself. He had all the opportunity to manage Wike before he appointed his running mate. That is why they can't punish him or they can't accuse him of anti-party activities, because consistently the man had threatened at every time. Wike is the only politician, the only PDP politician that had been known to threaten PDP, and the heavens didn't fall. Because like we say, he who pays the piper did take the tune. When for the first time since 1999, the PDP had to take the back seat, playing the role of opposition, it was very difficult for them. For the first 2 years, they were dragging for the soul of PDP. You had the former governor of Kaduna State's faction, and then you had the Modu Sherif faction, and Wike played a pivotal role in ensuring that the PDP is rescued from the jugulars of those that wanted to sink it. Atiku was nowhere to be found at that time. At some point, even at that time, he was in APC. But it was when he didn't get the ticket in APC that he came back to PDP. So, that said, I think that immediately after the primaries, and knowing fully well that Wike being a difficult person, I do not blame Atiku for choosing Okowa as a running mate, because even I don't think any reasonable politician in Nigeria would want a Wike, very vociferous, loquacious, and, you know, theatrics, with all the theatrics, you know, behind him as a running mate. But against that backdrop, I think he ought to have managed Wike, knowing fully well that Wike contested primaries with him. A lot of people also were tipping him for the running mate, but, you know, with a lot of questions because of his character and the kind of person he is. So even if he had made up his mind, the members of the PDP had selected and narrowed down to Wike and Okowa. The moment he made up his mind to select Okowa as a running mate, he should have gone to Wike first before making that an announcement. All of these meetings that they are held in London now, that they are holding in London, would have been avoided. But he didn't do that. If Tinubu did not hold meetings, and Peter Obi is not holding meetings with Wike, I do not think that Atiku would have been holding meetings with him. The moment Wike met with Tinubu in London, the next thing we heard that Atiku has jetted out to meet with the same Wike in London. So that's why now Wike seems to be the beauty, like you rightly captured it, Wike seems to be the beautiful bride. Now everybody is wooing him because he enjoys more popularity than even Okowa in the South. He's also done so well for the party, and lastly, he has money to throw around. Thank God for the kind of politics we play. You can use state funds to prosecute election and nobody will look in your direction, provided you're helping a ruling party. So that's why they can't punish him for anti-party. But then whether Atiku will be able to meet up those demands is another different ballgame altogether. I think what Wike is basically doing, making demands that he knows Atiku cannot meet. So once you make such demands, it becomes a practical impossibility for there to be a peace. And if the other party can make those demands, the next thing, because now everybody is wooing you, the APC wants you, even though you're not leaving PDP, you work for APC, and then you still have a bite of the cherry if they win. If you work for Labour Party, you have a bite of the cherry. If you work for Atiku, you have a bite of the cherry. But really, like my co-panelist has said, these demands are not too onerous. Atiku signed the same demand, the same pact with Obasanjo in 1999. If you remember the deal or no deal issue, when Atiku also now wanted to contest for the president in 2003, when that brought the crisis between him and Obasanjo. They signed that same arrangement with Obasanjo, even though Obasanjo didn't fulfill it at the end of the day. So signing a one-term pact, it's not a big deal. But all of those other positions, the Senate president, certain key positions, including that of the chief of staff to the president, because the chief of staff of the president in some cases is even more powerful than the vice president. We've seen Abba Kyari play the role of the chief of staff, and we knew the role he played. He became the default president. So if they must move ahead, I think these are issues that they should in good faith agree to, and then for the sake of their party. Otherwise, they can as well kiss the election goodbye, because a house divided against itself will certainly not stand.
Okay, very quickly, Liberals, do you believe Nyesom Wike when he says that he's fighting on behalf of Nigerians? I mean, when he touched down at the Port Harcourt International Airport at Omagua yesterday, he was saying that all this fight is for the benefit of Nigerians, this and that. I mean, how can Nigerians believe Nyesom Wike in this instance? Isn't for his own personal aggrandizement? And what is the potential issue that could occur if Wike doesn't work with Atiku, and of course he works with Peter Obi or Bola Tinubu, and Tinubu or Peter Obi don't win, and Atiku wins? What can come out of such an issue?
You know, it is clear, it is very obvious now that no one zone can win election again in Nigeria. We saw it happen in 2015. Buhari, as a candidate from 2003 to 2011, consistently won election in one zone, but he didn't win the presidential election until he teamed up with, the Southwest, and then scrabbled a result from South-South and 25% from South-South and a few states from the East. So it is clear that no one zone can win the presidential election again in Nigeria. So against that backdrop, like I consistently said, is the fact that now that that's why Wike had become a beautiful bride, because even those in opposition in the South also cannot undermine the influence of Wike, including some governor from the North Central. Look at Autumn. It's almost like an ADC to Wike now. So the man commands a lot of influence, and so in this election, unlike before when you have just two front runners, now you have three front runners, and some other contestants like the ADC, Kwankwaso, also tailing seriously behind. Also, you have Abga from the Southeast region. So with all of this, you need as much vote you can garner. Anywhere you can garner vote from, you wouldn't want to let it go, and that's why Wike is very relevant. And if you direct him at your own peril. But as for working for Nigeria, I can tell you that this had nothing to do with Nigerians. It's all about the politicians' personal interest. It's about Wike's personal interest, and has nothing to do with the interests of Nigeria.
Okay, and I'll come back to you, Ezugo. The same question I put to Liberals is what I want to put to you. What if, in this process, Wike decides to work with either Peter Obi or he decides to work with Bola Tinubu to actualize the Southern presidency, and eventually Atiku goes ahead to win the presidential election? What can happen in that instance to Wike in PDP, considering that he's exiting his second term?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Wike being a very, very straightforward person in terms of what is happening now, like we said, a beautiful bride, there's nothing anyone can do. If he has already seen it, that he commands a whole of followers. If most of the governors, like Makinde from Oyo State, or Tom from the North Central, and maybe probably in the Southeast, you have people like Governor of Ikpazo and maybe Governor of Enugu State are with him, I don't think whether he'll have any shaking. Whether PDP happens to win or not, it doesn't make any difference to Wike, for whom Wike is. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, Wike is somebody that if he believes in something, just like our colleague in Lagos said, Wike has spent so much on PDP. He's just one of the people that you can count in Nigeria who is not a political prostitute. Even the presidential candidate of PDP, you know, when he left PDP and went to APC, as they say, as he saw it, he never got the ticket in APC. He came back to PDP and now ran and lost and came back again to PDP. Even when PDP zoned it to the south, he still came back and wants to take it again. And that's why my colleague here is talking of justice. So justice must prevail.
Very quickly, Okpanachi, let's talk about the Labour Party and Wike. Why do you think Peter Obi had to bring former President Olusegun Obasanjo to meet with Wike? Why not just go alone if indeed he's a factor?
I think he's banking on the support of the former president. But for now, we are not sure where the former president is heading to. But Obi has realized that his base is primarily that of a southeast. He has not been able to build bridges across the river. So he's looking for support across the southeast. His candidature has no national acceptance like that of Atiku and that of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And let me go back to what you said earlier. Wike, whether Atiku wins or not, Wike has already crossed the red line. And the Wike's political adversaries have already taken strategic positions around Atiku. And Wike is politically experienced enough to know that Atiku will surely come for his head politically if he wins. Therefore, he has nothing to lose supporting or not supporting Atiku. And even the party's chairmanship that he's looking for, he's looking at it that he's looking for his political survivor. He knows PDP will not win the election without his support, and I can bet you will not give his support to Atiku because he knows the implication that if Atiku wins. Is that the reason
why we are saying these tough demands? Does it look like Wike is pushing these tough demands because he knows that Atiku would necessarily not meet these demands?
Well, not necessarily. He knows that Atiku will come for his head politically if he wins the election. Okay. And he cannot afford to play with
so
political
we can safely
survivor.
Conclude based on your analysis that Wike actually wants to still commit to either Peter Obi or Bola Tinubu to actualize the southern presidency, and that's why he's bringing these tough demands, which he knows that Atiku cannot meet. Is that what you're saying?
One thing I want you to understand is that, yes, to some extent, one thing I want you to understand is that Asiwaju has invested in so many people and is a friend to so many people within and outside APC. And Wike has, tremendous respect for Asiwaju. He trusts Asiwaju more than Atiku. And when the ships are down, you see that surely he will go for Asiwaju.
All right, very interesting perspective indeed, gentlemen. We must go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation this time around on the $23 million Abacha loot returned to Nigeria by the US government, but which will now be tied to some specific projects like it was said in the past. Stay with us.
When we wanted to move faster and see more of the world, we found a way. We also found ways to connect beyond boundaries. And when an unprecedented pandemic tried to derail us, we found ways to get ahead.
Are we ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Ready. Ready.
As your bank, we have stayed proactive, creating dynamic solutions and leveraging cutting-edge technology to drive global expansion into new markets. We rolled up our sleeves to be human together, doing more, innovating smarter, and always showing up for you. So come on board, let's give you more.
Access, more than banking.
There's no other animal as courageous and majestic as the lion. But with only 50 lions left in Nigeria, they may soon just be a memory. When snares are used for bushmeat, we rob the lions of their food and risk maiming them for life. So please say no to illegal bushmeat and help protect the lions. Keep them well and keep us safe.
Here's a card we no go give you stress at all. Zero waiting, zero queue. First Banky Petra card. Here's a card we no go give you wahala. Zero trouble now for you. First Banky Petra card. Tell off his spoiler. Who won't break them? Where you want say now only you get them. Nothing fit do one. Sharp, sharp payment not the way. Swipe they go, you know the way. Veteran card with the sweet body. Veteran card we know the shape person. We put you first again. First Banky Veteran card we put you first again. Generate your virtual card we put you first again. First Banky Veteran card we put you first again. Just generate your virtual card.
We started our journey over 7 years ago, connecting travelers to their favorite destinations. Since then, we've revolutionized how we want our passengers to feel while flying. That is why we've introduced our brand new Embraer 195E2 aircraft.
Everyone has a face they need to see.
We are on a mission to add new destinations to our ever-increasing fleet. Our Boeing 777 will take you on an international journey. Mumbai, Guangzhou, London, Johannesburg. And now, Airpeace is adding a new destination, Dubai.
If you're gonna fly, then you should fly with us on Airpeace.
Airpeace flies you from all our domestic routes to Dubai from Lagos at no additional cost.
Welcome back from the break. You're still watching This Week with me, Nyesom Wike. And we'll move on to the next story. The United States is to officially return to Nigeria $23 million stolen by former military ruler General Sani Abacha. At the signing of the agreement on the return of the money, Nigeria's Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says the repatriation is a result of commitment and collaboration between Nigeria, the U.S., and the United Kingdom. U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, is urging the country to use the funds for infrastructural development as prescribed in the signed agreement. Now, the government says the funds will be invested in the completion of the Abuja-Kaduna Road, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and the Second Niger Bridge.
The forfeited Mecosta Sani assets were subsequently transferred to NCA, which on 7th day of February 2022 held the sum of $23,439,724 United States dollars, pending the execution of the assets return agreement agreed among the Federal Republic of Nigeria, United States of America, and the UK. Following the court order, the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the USA have negotiated and finalized the terms of the asset return agreement, which we are here this afternoon to execute.
The U.S. Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation seized these funds in response to General Abacha and his associates' violation of U.S. law when they laundered these assets through the United States and into accounts in the United Kingdom. These actions were a flagrant breach of the Nigerian people's trust, but today is the result of extensive and high-level cooperation between the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Federal Republic of Nigeria to make the Nigerian people whole. This agreement is also the kind of collaboration that our governments must continue in order to right the wrongs committed under previous regimes. Combined with the $311.7 million the United States seized and repatriated with the assistance of the Bailiwick of Jersey and the government of Nigeria in 2020, this repatriation brings the total amount of funds repatriated in this case by the United States to more than $334.7 million. As a result of today's agreement, $23 million will be transferred to the Nigerian government, which, through the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, will use the funds to continue the construction of 3 key infrastructure projects located in strategic economic zones throughout the country: the Second Niger Bridge, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and the Abuja-Kano Road.
Well, I still have with me in the studio Liberos Oshoma, who's joining us from Lagos. He's an African affairs analyst and, of course, a legal practitioner. And, of course, we have Willie Ezugu, who's the secretary of the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties. And, of course, our own Okpanachi here, who has been with us helping us to understand these issues. Okpanachi, let's talk about all this Abacha loot. $3.65 billion is what Abacha has brought back to Nigeria, if we may call that. Within this season, since 1999, we've seen these recoveries of $3.65 billion now. And some people are beginning to say that, look, it looks like Abacha had foreseen that Nigeria was going to be in huge challenges. That's why, in quotes, he took, because some are saying that it is no longer loot or stolen wealth, but he helped Nigeria to save these funds. Yes, while they are trying to make a serious issue look very jovial, how much more should we be looking at this kind of issues where people still mindlessly, and of course it has to take the Nigerian government a lot of things, and then with the United States government or UK even giving us conditions as to how to use our own monies that were stolen from our Commonwealth? Okpanachi, yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we as citizens must be of good faith towards our country. We must do everything possible to see and project the image of Nigeria far and above our own personal interests. It is unfortunate that this has happened, but as far as I'm concerned, when you compare this to what happened particularly before 2015, you can agree with me that Abacha is a saint as far as the issue of theft is concerned, or corruption or money laundering is concerned. It was admitted by the former vice president and the presidential candidate of PDP that under their government, $16 billion was wasted on electricity and nothing was achieved. That 50, and we're talking about $3 billion. When the $16 billion is times 3 or if not 4 of what Abacha is said to have, what has been repatriated, courtesy of Abacha's loot thus far. So it shows that Abacha is a saint when we compare to what happened before 2015, regime, 2015. Then it's unfortunate that US is giving us conditions for using our own money, but the conditions they have given is based on their experience before now. Before now, the loots that were returned were relooted. So because of that one, they had to give us conditions before releasing the recent one. And the money that has been released, the $23.4 million, is a very positive endorsement for this present government. Because if you recall, there was part of this money was refunded to this government, and it was specifically agreed that it should be used for this same project before this one. So it therefore means that the money as released earlier was judiciously and transparently used. Otherwise, the US government and UK government will not consent to the release of this present one. So for that reason, we can see that we are making progress as a government. We are being transparent. We are not, relooting the money as used to be our tradition. Okay. So we must commend the present government for being, faithful to the agreement, and we encourage the US government, the UK government, the Switzerland government, and other government where our money has touched the money looted by Abacha, and even leaders after Abacha. We encourage them to return them to Nigeria, having demonstrated capacity to be faithful to the agreement to implement, utilize the money as directed or as agreed.
I come to you, Liberals. Let's talk about this month. $23 million US and see all the razzmatazz of media coverage and all of that and the conditions the US is giving us. But look at it. On the flip side, there's $480 million US that Nigerian governors are contesting, which is being shared to consultants who helped us in the Paris debt refund. I mean, if you put it side by side, do you think that we make judicious use of our monies? And if we are toying around with $480 million US and then you see $23 million US that is being put us with this sort of conditions, doesn't it give us room for a rethink on how to manage our monies?
That's why I'm taking aback the way my co-panelist is eulogizing the government and saying that they were very transparent. That is why the US government is returning money. And yet, we agree that this money had been consistently being returned since 1999. And if you listen to the US ambassador, she was very instructive. She said this money were laundered into the US government in violation of the laws of the United States through the UK. So it wasn't about, oh, you see, because the government had been so committed, that is why we are returning this money. There is a violation of their laws. And since there is a violation of their law, they feel the need to to uphold their laws, to return back this fund. That's why even today, if these people that are fraudulently, stealing money from people in US and using wire transfer, the moment such funds are traced to an account in US, they will return it back to the owner. It is not about, oh, look, the government had judicially used the money. Why is there accusations that some of this money also had been reluted? We saw how some were shared, the True Trader Fund, trader money. Can you call that judiciously? And then this one that you had also raised now, we're talking about, we're celebrating $23 million, and yet we are ready to throw away. The same Attorney General was ready to throw away $441 million, all in the name of commission to persons who were helping in refunding in the Paris Club and London Club refund. So all of this, it shows truly that there are a lot of problems happening, with the implementation of our law. And then I must also say this, it is not just in 90. Yes, 480 million quickly. Yes, yes. It is also not true. It is also not true that it was only before 2016 that there was mismanagement and stealing in Nigeria. As I speak, it's because Abacha is dead. If Abacha were to be alive today, we probably won't be receiving this money. People helped Abacha launder this money. Nobody's mentioning their name. There are people today in government who are laundering money to Dubai, who are still laundering money to other countries, even in African countries. Nobody's mentioning their name. Otherwise, this fund that was laundered by Abacha, do you know the infrastructure that this fund would have been used for? Why are we crying today that there is no forest? Why are we crying that there are no infrastructure? A bridge that will cost 300 million, we will construct that bridge with 2 billion, and some other money will enter people's pocket. People are clearing grasses with 500 million. People, we saw how cockroaches and rodents are eating invoices. We are also seeing how some persons in connivance with our accountant general stole 109 million naira. So 109 billion naira. So all of this money had gone somewhere. So tomorrow, it is when they die that you now begin to hear, oh look, this government was transparent in managing the fund return. That was why they are returning more money to them. The only problem I see here is that we have a lot of loss, but implementation is zero. So it is easy to take out this money, and that is why the government, this foreign government, are dictating to you how you should spend this money. But unfortunately, they don't have mechanism for monitoring the spending of the money. That is where this money also are reluted. It's quite unfortunate, but Nigerians should truly wise up and know that they can participate in government by also learning to select leadership that will truly manage funds for them.
Okay, and you have raised a very important perspective. There are lots of people who helped Abacha to loot these funds. What has happened to them? Of course, we had heard the issues that Kebbi State Governor Atiku Abubakar Bagudu was facing. I mean, he's still facing those issues right now, though he has declared his innocence as it regards this Abacha loot. But what has happened to those people who helped Abacha to do this looting? Ezugu, I'm bringing you on this because he also raised an important issue. Is it only Abacha that looted monies? What has happened to other presidents or even military heads of state? Is it because some of them are alive? That's why we are hearing nothing about them. Or is it until they are dead before, in quote, whatever loots that they have outside the country will start being brought back to Nigeria?
Well, even as of today, you have been on the news of what happened in U.S., where almost 2 legislators have gone to jail in U.S. and some businessmen, and the same person who looted the fund and transferred it to U.S. is still here today. We know a lot of people like that, but nothing could happen to them because it's either, you know, through maybe sectionalism or whatever. They don't want to tell them. I mean, they don't want to bring them to book. For example, like my colleague in Lagos said, this is the only country where an accountant general, you talk 100 something billion.
109 billion.
109 billion. Where is it today?
In the Buhari administration.
In fact, there was a court, there was the day the court was sitting against his case, and he came late to the court. So you can imagine such a thing. And he was to mention those who are involved, but all of a sudden he could not. You see, the country is in a mess. And the looting today, yes, they have been looting, but the looting today in today's government is as if the other ones as if they are sects. I know quite all right that Abacha looted, but if you look at what have happened, the placement of investment or infrastructure in this country, you set it back to Abacha. If those people looting today will be able to have done something we can see, you can at least say, okay, we have seen this, we can take something home. But today we can't take anything home in terms of looting. Okay. So, I mean,
I can see everyone Okpanachi wanting to add something to this conversation.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's what you are hearing today are, mere allegations. And what is happening, I'm not saying this government is perfect, or governments after Abacha, particularly since 1999, I'm not saying that they are perfect. But the fact remains that for you to say that there is looting, it's either there is a judicial pronouncement, which is what has taken place in U.S. U.S. government has not, come up with any allegation or confirmation or judgment regarding other persons other than Abacha that we're talking about now. Then also, for you to say there is looting, there must be admission, that which is the case of Atiku Abubakar, admitting that they took 16 billion, even from local government states accounts, $16 billion for electricity and nothing happened. That is an admission, positive admission. Then in Abacha's case, there is judgments of UK, US, Switzerland. So until there is a judgment against this present government, all the officials of this government are convicted by court. I don't want to join issue because some of these matters are before the court, and it is not wise to start discussing. Even as a legal practitioner, I'm conversant and aware of the implication of discussing.
Yeah, but when you hear, talks of 109 billion naira being stolen by one person under this government. Yeah, it's an allegation, but it's in court at the moment. But I mean, that's the point, I guess, that he was trying to allow the court on this issue.
We should not preempt the court. Let's allow the court to,
You have a very strong point there. I mean, this issue, so that we don't go into this case when it's still being.
So many people have been accused and cleared by the court.
Quickly.
Okay, I can see you want to just add to that quickly, Liberals, before we move on. Go ahead, Liberals.
Yes, we are talking about we're talking about admission. Admission. We have a situation where there's an allegation of 109 billion. You're talking about admission, that it has not been admitted when the FCC had investigated and charged 9 commissioners of oil producing state. Somebody's still talking about allegation. We're talking about allegation where cash in a government that is promoting a single treasury account, that is celebrating a single treasury account, and a minister for finance, a minister for humanitarian disaster is sharing cash. How do you account for those cash? A sitting vice president is sharing 10,000 naira. How do you give receipt for those money that you are sharing? And somebody is saying that these are mere allegations and they have not been substantiated. And it is very convenient for us to look the other way when it concerns this government. But then you mention a singular case. How about the man who cleared grasses with 500 million and was sacked? Is that a
300 and something million actually?
How about the ones?
In that area, the government has indicted itself by firing the person from the office. To that extent, we can say that we can agree with that.
Okay,
but EFCC that you are using, EFCC is not the court of law, and
so
EFCC has charged so many people before the court, and the court have cleared the judges, politicians have been charged before the court, and the court has been clearing them. It therefore means that the judgment of EFCC is not final on issue of or allegation of corruption. So we should allow the court to do the needful. Let the court pass the judgment. We are not saying these people are safe.
That is why, because today Abacha is dead, that's why we are only investigating Abacha. Nobody is investigating the other generals that have ruled Nigeria. Obasanjo is there. Nobody has investigated it.
Because we have to put an end to this.
Nobody
and
has
then just move on to the next story. We're going Africa now, heading to Angola, where the sitting president has been re-elected. Now, João Lourenço has been re-elected the president of Angola. He is to retain his seat for another 5 years as the National Electoral Commission announced the president won with 51% of the votes. As the election results extend the hegemony of the MPLA, Adalberto Costa Jr., leader of Angola's main opposition party UNITA, has rejected the provisional results of the commission, claiming that the process was marred by counting irregularities. MPLA is the only party that has governed the African country since its independence from Portugal in 1975. And I come to you, Willie Ezugu. You're an expert on these political matters, and of course, incumbents retaining his seat, and of course, the opposition political parties are crying foul. They are saying that they got about 48%, and so they're almost close. They were close to winning this election before the incumbent president rigged it. I mean, it's the same thing that we had in Kenya. What do you make of this kind of talk by UNITA?
Well, my happiness is that it's no longer like where Carigo is workable in African elections today. For example, you saw what happened in Kenya. Who won the election in Kenya? The same thing might be applicable in Nigeria. For example, the leading opposition in Angola won even the capital, Luanda. He won the capital, Luanda. And for him to have won Luanda means that the people are totally against the ruling party. But what in being equal in African countries, every president in Africa is like a mini god.
Well, I must say that you may not be totally correct, because we have seen the APC losing election in the nation's capital, Abuja, here, yet winning elections across the country. So the fact that they won an election, the opposition won an election in the capital doesn't mean that that's the situation.
A national election that encompasses the whole country.
Yeah, I mean, even here, Buhari has previously lost elections in
piecemeal. In piecemeal, APC have been losing a lot of states too. And in FCT, you can see what is going on in FCT. Even as much as PDP won the APC, they won the election in APC, you can see what is going on with the court and what is going on with what happened in the judicial district in FCT today. So automatically in Africa, every ruling party who is in power always does not want to lose the election. Does not want to go to opposition. And if you saw what's happened in Angola, automatically between me and you, we'll know there's something transpired that made them to think that the ruling party has emerged again.
Okay. And I come to you, Liberos. You're an expert on all these issues too. Tell us about why the elections that we're having of recent are beginning to, have this sort of occurrences again with the opposition crying foul. But also one thing I'm interested in is seeing how close the results are between the opposition and the ruling party. In Kenya, it was almost the same, about 48 to 51 and all of that. What are you thinking about this kind of results actually?
I think what is playing out in Africa quickly is the fact that African electoral bodies are beginning to embrace the use of technology in managing their election. And if you remember, 2 years ago, the Malawian election, was almost closed this way. But at the end of the day, the Constitutional Supreme Court of Malawi ordered a re-election, and that brought in the current president, Chatera, into office. In Kenya also, the technology that was embraced in Kenya also saw a lot of innovation. But we saw at the announcement of result, we saw a lot of skirmishes going on. Even those 4 members of the electoral body disagree with the chairman of the electoral body, which is why O'Reilly had approached the court now, and we'll wait to see what the court will do in that direction. And for Angola, I think what also came to bear, even though technology had also been in place in transmission of results, just like Nigeria had employed technology. But you still see the larger-than-life image of the ruling party play out there. That's why the opposition is seriously crying foul. Until we completely embrace the use of technology, we'll still see this ruling party syndrome, consistently play out there. But that of Kenya, we saw clearly, a departure, even though there are still allegations against the chairman of the electoral body. Also, this outcome in Angola, it is not the same thing. It's not the same thing like what played out in Kenya. It is a little bit different. But I hope and I pray that the court, just like in Malawi, we should be able to come to the aid of the people and probably open a new vista for Angola.
And Okpanachi, actually, I must state clearly that it's 44.05 that UNITA scored. The other ones are by other smaller parties, political parties. So 44.05% of the vote by UNITA, which is the main opposition in Angola, and of course 51% by MPLA, which is the governing party and has been winning elections since 1975. So Okpanachi, let's talk about these issues. I mean, when you have liberals making a statement that the use of electronic transmission of election results and technology has helped to improve elections in Africa to the extent that opposition getting up to the 40% benchmark, does this mean that if more transparency is shown, that there's a likelihood that the opposition political parties will make some stage back in several countries? Because in 2023, we are going to have several elections across the continent, including Nigeria. Does it look like the opposition in some of these countries can actually bounce back and make very grand statements by winning elections?
I think there is no general application as far as this issue is concerned. It depends on the strength of the opposition and depends on the country. For instance, I must congratulate the opposition UNITA in Angola. They did better than 2017. This last election, 2017, the ruling party MPLA scored 61%. This time around, they scored 51.08%. And they scored, they won 150 parliamentary seats. This time around, they lost more. So the opposition has really improved, and technology, like my learned colleague said, has helped in shaping elections in Africa. But the reason I studied the election and I was following it closely, and the reason why the opposition lost the election, lost the election was, one, the opposition was more of an anti-government than telling the people of Angola what it intends to do and how it intends to do it. And the same thing that the Labour Party is doing and PDP is doing today, they are all about criticizing the APC without coming out with functional and workable plan on how to resolve the loopholes they think they have discovered. And that is why at the end of the day,
I can see Ezugu here trying to disagree.
At the end of the day, the outcome.
Yeah, but of course, gentlemen, you've raised a very critical point, but Ezugu is a specialist in that area. I know how the opposition usually behaves, because if they don't do that, how will they win elections? And who the people? Well, we must thank you so much, Rilwan Okpanachi. Is a legal practitioner and then the Director General of the Project Beyond 2023, which is a political group. And of course, Willie Ezugu is the Secretary of the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, CNPP. We must thank you for joining us. And of course, our own Liberal Soshoma is a legal practitioner too and an African affairs analyst. We must thank you for joining us from Lagos. That's how it's been for this edition of This Week. I'm Som Nasambo. See you next week.
$34 million hectares of arable land. Over 200 million people. One nation. Home to Africa's fertilizer company. fertilizer. Pure urea fertilizer. With one single-minded passion to feed Nigeria. Every bag is a potential, an aspiration to turn this green nation into the biggest food basket of Africa. Dangote Fertilizer.
Knowing who you are starts with knowing where you come from. We are the now and the future. We know that we live in a world that offers us endless possibilities. We'll continue to win to create when, where, and how we want. And if they ask you how we did it, tell them we only know one way to do it. We don't wait for permission. We do it now. My name is Ayo Balogun, Wizkid, and I am made in Africa.